Hi, hello class. This is replacement class for MMX 3024 Games Productions and Management. Uh, so basically, we have a few topics to be discussed on this class actually, um, especially on the user profiles and the user profile slash user persona. But I will leave it there at the moment because during your class this weeks and also for the intermediate leave or for the leave next weeks for the leave next weeks. So this is almost like a homework assignment for you guys uh, for your intermediate leave next weeks. Um, so this is quite important for me to explain this chart in front of you, uh, and why I need to explain this. And during the holiday next weeks, at least you guys have a task to do, have a task to complete and to do for your home assignment, which is this one. And when we get back, I will be explaining about the user profiles and user persona as well, which is the method that I said um, quite important for me to expose it to you guys because it is a new method that I personally found out that it is quite important for you to use these methods of user profiles and user persona in your project development, especially when it's come to the character buildings and the games development, especially when you want to um, especially when you want to know more about your clients before you before your launchings your games product. You should know who is your clients, who is the user that will be willing, more than willing to to play with your games. But today we are moving to this informations on the uh, information designs on games developments at the pre-production process of the games developments. Uh, so as you can see, there are four sections here. So we have initial ideas, research development, UI critics, and visual communications. And it is important to remember, guys, which is although you although in your first assignment you are required to do to use the management tools, um, like I did mention in our class before, the management tools. But before you use the management tools, before you create a folder of files, try to make the folder and files that you create in order, in an order, such as from the initial ideas, research development, UI critics, and visual communications. And it is very important for you guys to understand step by steps for the games development process, the proper games development process. Although there are many other options available on how to start up your design management process, but this is one of the ways of how you can start up your design management, games design management projects. So, um, based on this chart that I create, first of all, one of the earliest master file that you need to create in your uh, using the management tools. um, One of it is brainstormings. One of the folder that you must create is the brainstorming. Inside the folder of brainstorming, as you probably know, or maybe you should know, inside the brainstorming folder, there should be an ideas of the ideas of what you are planning to do. So as simple as your design research, so what you've been searching, your reference mostly. But in the brainstorming sessions, usually other than um, other than you research about the references, you have to research on the topic as well. So this is on the brainstorming session. Pretty much simple. What is the topics, what you are planning to do, what is the current topics, why it's so important. For example, I'm giving you guys, for example, why today using augmented reality can enhance the user experience while playing a games. This is another topics that you must consider when you do the brainstormings of your project developments. Uh, Other than that, on the second process, second folder that you must create using your management tools such as inspirations and references. For example, so inside the management tools such as Trello, for examples, and other management strong, good and strong management tool, similar to Trello, you create another folder which is you name it as inspirations and references. So this is based on your inspirations, what you are trying to do in your inspirations. Where do you get the inspirations? Is it from the cultural perspective? uh, is it if it's not on the cultural perspective, then where it was from? For example, in the cultural perspective, is it a Malaysian cultural? Is it a Malay cultural? Or is it an Indian culture? Or is it Chinese culture? It's up to you guys to determine what is the culture. Or maybe you want to revert back to the old culture. For example, the back to the history of how the how the Malay culture back in, for example, in the Melaka culture, for example, or maybe earlier than that, the culture of Hindu culture in Malaya, for example. So it's up to you where do you got the inspirations, and of course a lot of references. I'm sure you guys can do a lot of research on this inspiration and references, um, put together in the files. Such as a mood board, simple references. Um, if it was the inspiration from the culture, so put inspiration from the culture, a mood board. If you got the information not from the culture, if it was from another angle, put it in this box. Where do you got the angle? Is it from the perspective of what happened in the world today, urban life, for example, that you want to explore? Do you want the user to explore about the urban life in Malaysia, for example? Then give an inspiration. What is the urban life that you that inspire you to come up with the games, concepts, etc., etc. Then this is the initial ideas of what you were planning to do. Then going to the another um, stages, which is research and development. As usual, create another folder that represent research and development. So inside the folder, do some research on the storyboard and instructional design. Do some research on instructional design, such as instructional design for games. Remember in the class I show you guys saya tunjukkan sample of instructional design for developing a module for games, not a module, a learning module. I show it you guys some sample on how to do the instructional design, but this is on your effort. Try to research on the good, the I for you to consider the best and the good instructional design that you can Google, or you can find it somewhere else. Other than that, storyboard creation, what need to be put inside the storyboard, um, such as the storyline, the narrative, uh, the concepts, the ideas, all put together in this instructional design and storyboard. Then under the remember, through your research through your research you may find the other stuff that related to storyboard and instructional design, such as, for example, how you figure out the narration, how you come up with the narration for games, or in fact if you find out the best way to do a storylines, or maybe storyline about games, or maybe the world view about the games, you put all it in the same folder under the sections of storyboard and instructional design. Okay, now we move to the another section here. Another folder that you guys need to fill in as well is the user profiles and user and profiling. So uh, check out the post that I posted recently on Facebook group, on our Facebook groups. I posted informations about how to create a user profiles and user persona. Uh, have a read about it, get an ideas on how to do user profile and user persona. For the next class, I will be explaining in detail what is user profile and user persona. But at the moment, for you guys to do this task, this information design task, using this flow chart, try to research about user profiles and profilings, and the other stuff that you need to research as well. But I will explain more about user journey mapping, which is another folder that include together under the research and development. You put it as a user journey mapping. Don't worry about it. um, have a look on uh, do some little research on user journey mapping, get some ideas, but don't worry too much. I will do explain about user journey mappings in our next class. Okay, now we move to the another folder here, which is UI, user interface critics. So this is quite crucial and quite important, whereby it's require me to explain in detail during our class about user interface and architecture. But this is the general ideas on how what you should put it on UI critics folder, and inside the folder you have a user interface architecture. Uh, so under the user interface architecture, you have the user interface critics, such as the information and interface design. Uh, do some research do some research on information and interface design, why it is important for you to have to have the knowledge of interface design while building your games. in the pre-production process. Meaning is pre-production process is the early process before you come up with your actual game concepts. In the interface designs, you must consider and in such an useful informations for your user, information yang penting-penting kepada user anda. Contohnya, um, adakah uh, adakah anda akan menggunakan karakter. Kalau anda menggunakan karakter dalam games anda yang akan lead user untuk bermula dengan karakter ini, so imagine the how the character will be in a form of interface design. So it doesn't really go deep to the character design yet, not yet, but it was the interface. For example, if we're talking about the Hang Tuah Lima Bersaudara, uh, the five warriors of Malacca, then the interface, the worlds that you're imagining for your games, and the interface itself, such as the color, for example, the color for the navigation, the color for the interface. You must consider the sidebar. The sidebar, is it have to be technology? Is it have to be text? Or is it, or the tech or the sidebar should look like the old Malacca kingdom, or is it an imaginary kingdom? So if it was an imaginary kingdom, for example, then the sidebar of an imaginary kingdom. So what is the item that can represent a sidebar, navigation bar, and use of color? Lots of research on what is the use of color, the perceptions of the user when you put that color. Is it contrast? Is it the color represent the kingdoms of Malacca, the kingdoms of the early peninsula of Malaya? The For example, if you design a game talking about Sri Vijaya, the legendary kingdom of Sri Vijaya that used to be one of the big kingdoms in Peninsular Malaysia long time ago. So what color that represent, what informations, so what information, so this is consider a useful aspect before you come up with your interface design. um, so it should be user interface navigation controller that you must consider in your information design. Navigation bar, stack of view controllers, customizing navigation if you have a customizing navigation. But this is on rough ideas what you are planning to do. If you have a tab bar controllers, so how it's gonna be. Consider it's in a many platform as well. If you design it to be play on the mobile phone, so it should be different if you want it the user to play online via laptop. So the customizing navigations, the controllers, for example, in fact the user interface design for the navigation control are slightly different compared to mobile games and laptops. So you must consider this stuff. Tab bar appearances, move view controllers. For example, you want to move the worlds of your gamers. So move view controllers that you also must consider. View controller display, and that's include under the information interface design as well, which is the view controller, the display, the is it automatically gonna pop out while the user was crossing the cursor around the navigation bar. So this is stuff that you must consider in the pre-production process. Why it is important for me to stress out? Pentingnya saya stress out di sini. Kenapa di pre-production process ini kita dah configure this kind of stuff, this kind of information design, user interface design. Kenapa kita dah configure? Uh, because whatever that you doing in the early pre-production process ataupun early game design will determine the shapes and directions of your game. uh, in fact ia akan membantu user anda lebih memahami konsep and ideas of your games. So kalau you do a repairment do a repairment while in between of you creating a games, that's require a lot of extra times. So it's almost like you're wasting your times, because in the middle of your creation, middle of your creating the game, suddenly you have to stop, look back. You have to look back again to the early process, and you have to do some repairments. So in terms of many perspective, for example, repairment in terms of the initial ideas, the concepts. In fact, if you want to do the repairments on the user interface design, so it gonna do damage to your timeline, so it's gonna waste of time. So that's why you must consider, at least you have a general ideas what you are planning to do, so you already picture it. Or in other proper word, in other professional word, we say envision, envision, which is we envision what is gonna be the directions, what is gonna be the directions of your games, and the directions of your products. Okay, now we look forward to the another folder that you guys need to create, which is the visual communications. Okay. uh, so please do some research on the informations and interface, such as what is information designs. uh, do research on what is information design. uh, Read the books, or read blogs or portal that's a lot of it. I'm sure you can find it if you search through the Googles. And yes, now we're moving to the visual communications, another folder that what you need to fill in this folder is form, content, arrangement. What kind of forms that you think of? Please do a research on what is the form under visual communications, what is the content that should be under your visual communications, arrangement, such as the lighting, color, the emotions. For example, what kind of emotion that you want the user to be when they looking up for your information user interface design. uh, so what is the seductions that you want the user, that you want to seduce your user to play your games? What do you think that can really inspire your user? So for example, start with the form. What kind of form that you think that you want to do for this game projects? For example, if you are planning to do uh, games that related to Wheel and Empire, something similar, like something similar like Warcraft, or something similar to Starcraft, for example. If you're talking about Starcraft, building an empire, so it is a forms of building an empire. uh, using uh, tactical concept of games. So in a tactical view, you must consider the forms of the forms of the overall of the games. Uh, the other stuff is, for example, if you building Srivijaya, the kingdoms that once was the kingdoms that ruled the Peninsula Malaysia, Indonesia, the Southeast Asia, the worlds of the Malay in the old time. So the form that I can see here is the forms of the worlds, the old worlds. So in the form of old worlds, uh, you can play with imaginary stuff. For example, in the old world, it can be not to say dragons, but it can be some animals, different animals, type of animals that you want to expose in these games. Maybe the animals that for example, the warrior back then was using this animal other than the great elephant, horse. Maybe there's some mystical animals. So this is the form that I'm talking about. And the other form that you must consider is it, of course, the legendary kingdom of Srivijaya, they are not thief, they are not lanun, they are not pirates, but they're very civilized kingdoms, but very good in the tactical knowledge of the sea, especially on the Southeast Asia Sea. So, so this is the form that you must consider while you are building your content. While you are building your content, so this is the factors that you must consider. Other than that, what is your arrangement? How do you want to plan? How it will, how it will start? Um, is it start from the early kingdoms, or is it start from the middle of the kingdom, whereby at the middle of the kingdoms they are already prosperous, they are already wealthy nations? Or do you want to start the game from the early, like nothing was there, they start the kingdom from scratch? Or do you want to be, there are a few, like a five kingdoms all together and they fight each other? So this is your arrangement in your visual communications folder. And factors that you might consider for that really play a big role, that you need to do a research as well, is the light, the color of your presentations of your, for example, the Srivijaya kingdom. So the emotional aspect that you must consider, the emotional aspect that really captured the user attentions, is the emotion design, based on colors. If the kingdom of Srivijaya, it was based on what colors? Is it gonna be based on greens, or is it gonna based on blue? Is it gonna be based on the red, the color of victory? So this is the type of emotion that you want to tackle to your user. So the emotion design, please research as well emotion design. What is emotion designs? Then at least you have an ideas how to seduce the user to play your games, based on the visual aspect, visual communication. Maybe before this, maybe from the 2 3 semester before this, you don't really pay attention on visual communication. But when it's come to um, design communications, these factors are very important, especially the emotion design. um, as I said, you guys have to do a research on the emotion design. What is the perspective ideas on emotion design, especially for game developments. how the function, especially the functions of your games. So this is stuff that you must consider, stuff that you must consider to in a way for you to do a seductions on the user. um, Inspiration. So uh, stuff that need inspiration. For example, if you look on Game of Thrones, uh, factors that inspire people to go crazy watching Game of Thrones is other than the tactical. We're talking about the tactical, the games that they amongst them playing. Uh, so the tactical concepts. Other than that is what else? The fight for the thrones, the issue, brotherhood issue, family issue, um, stuff that inspire human, that inspire human, that very close to the human heart. Other than in Game of Thrones, other than the dragons, the wow factor, but there always an issue that play around the Games of Thrones. The issue of family, the issue of human, the issue of rule, the issue of engagement, the rules of conquer, power, and all that. So inspire this into your game. Remember, power, control, money, uh, family, family bondings, brother and sisterhood. So this is the inspiration stuff that you must consider. Do a research on this as well and put it under the visual communication folder. All right, now we're done with these flow charts of your simple, not so simple actually, stuff that you really require when you building up pre-production process of your game design using the games development tools. Okay, now we can go back to the user profiles, which is stuff that you need to do before you come up with your uh, uh, game design. Is the important for you to understand who is your user. The ideas of this method is we don't want to create something that the user don't really require. Long time ago in my time, we try to create something, then we always believe uh, and always hope for the best that the user, the customer will like whatever that we do, but we no longer practice that in our design production today. In fact, in our design production today, we consider uh, create 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 a stuff, create a games, create a product, create a design that actually require or user needs, that the user really needs, so that they're not gonna waste, we're not gonna waste our times and money. So we're not gonna waste our time and money doing create something that user basically don't want to use or don't want it. So I put it here. Number one, user profile. User profile can be in the form of illustrations or photo montage. um, Main intention is to present your clients and what they need. So let's see. So in front of you here we have um, examples of user profiles. So if we imagine our this is a concept of profiling, which is we imagine our user. For example, Jill Anderson over here uh, is for example, in your user profile you have like a three user profile. Executive, for example, this is a executive, and you have college students, and you have young executive. So Jill Anderson is a executive, not a young executive, which hold a position of regional director. uh, and then in the bio you can put like she likes to play games, serious game, or maybe she likes to play enjoyable game as well, but at the same time she was looking for games that really full of information and influence, that can influence her in terms of her career development, for example. So her goals is to plays games that give her an extra value and that can enhance her knowledge, for example. There's her goals, and you can create her personality here. For example, she was quite introvert, very analytical person. So in a way for her to be analytical, so maybe she likes game that consider very tactical, that stuff that need to be analyzed. um, and then you can put, for example, she's a loyal, passive active. uh, so in the biography, uh, for example, here I'm looking for a site that will simplify the planning of my business trip. For you, you can put, I'm looking for games that can enhance my knowledge, that and sharp my minds uh, into analyze, for example. So her age 35, for the executive age 35 to 40. Young executive you can target from age 40, 25 to 30, 35 years old or 30 years old. Married with one child, some locations, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The other good behavior that you can put is very organized, practical, protective, hardworking, and preferred channel for to look in informations about the games, mobiles, Google's, email, pop-ups, etc., etc. And stuff that also motivate her to look on the games is maybe in term of price. Price comparison is not too pricey. The price was okay. She was comfort to play the game because of what? Maybe as a executive, she preferred to play games that are more related to detective game, investigations, games, games with the narration, with the good storylines that she feel comfort. Maybe she does not comfort to play game that related to PUBG, um, Halo, or something like that. But she was comfort to playing game that related to um, investigations, solve mystery, and etc. etc. Um, Games that convenience to her, for easy for her um, to find in the store, to find in the apps, to find in the whatever that she can find the game is. The other stuff that maybe speed of the games, and or you can change to something else. It doesn't have to be speed, but it can be in term of designs, or maybe in term of the character. Then at the brands over here, you put your competitor. who is your competitor in the game world. So as you can see, it put it here. Simply put, user personas are made up characters. So it was made up character based on user data designed to help you understand your customer. That's why I said when you do your information and interface design, you do a research about your user. So the best way to understand your user, sometimes we use the methods of survey, interviews, observations. So this is the data based on the data design. In your case, for these learning purposes, you can find the data through research on Google, through research on newspaper, magazine, journal, article, books. If you find out books about, so this is the data that design that help you to understand more about your customers. So if you looking back at the if we looking back at this um, information design, so it should be around this area, the brainstormings and inspirations and references, whereby you collect the research about the user, you research about the data, information data, um, how you want to, how do you, how do you want to consider the your user was based on the design data. So sorry, in this section here, you must consider where the data that you got it from. So is it from the article? Is it from the books that saying user at a certain age, for example, at the age of 35, they prefer a serious game, a game that can provide them with informations. At the same time, they can tease their mind by playing game, but at the same time, enhance their enhance their capability to learn new stuff. Sorry. Okay. Persona take many of the abstract areas of business and make them easier to digest, such as data and analytics. As I said earlier, data and analytics that you study here, that you do research on the brainstorming sessions. User experience, customer pain point is okay. Don't worry about this. I will explain it next time. Based on the data on social media, site design, writing voice or brand identity. So referring to a persona rather than a raw data make it easier for decision makers to reason out the best course of action. So what is a user persona? Think of a user persona as a representative of a broader customer groups. Person that consider expensive customer data into a single document. So imagine the your user, for example, if you your game was on a was up on something about analyzing game room, analyzing stuff, uh, you have to be a you have to require skill of detective, for example. So the group or persona that can group of persona or group of user of that game that you can consider here is group of person that like to play the role of detective, analyzing stuff, analyze and collect the evidence and so on, etc. So if I zoom it here, gonna do some zooming. So personal backgrounds of your user that love to play games related to detective, collect evidence and stuff. Maybe was around age 45 or maybe 40 to 55. Then have the roles of maybe someone that have roles of operation manager. Uh, then you put some company information if you want to. So this is another template on uh, user profile, user persona. So what include the good user persona? Um, so whatever is helpful to your company. If you are creating a marketing persona for a tech company, you want to include detail like their skill level with tech device. In your case, you are creating game designs. So you want to include details like uh, maybe also the skill level with text, experience, user experience with game design before this, levels of their skills, and what type of design, what type of game that they play before. They say there are some specific that are useful for every industry and provide the backbone of an effective persona. These are the areas that bring your persona to life, which is to say, aid you in better visualizing the persona. So, in order to aid you better in visualizing the persona in your game industry, what is stuff that you think that you need to put uh, such as the motivation, for example, in your building your user profile and user persona. Some of it have different templates, such as they give goals, they give frustrations, biography, but they have motivation as well. Each persona should include names, photo, personal quote, motto, biography, demographic, personality traits, and motivations, goal and frustration, preferred brands, and influencers. Keep in mind that persona are usually customized, and the above list is just starting point. Here are some additional areas that some companies find useful when building out user persona, which is preferred social media channels, daily routine, tech skill, hobbies and interests. You can put hobbies and interests, for example, in your building your user persona for your game design. What is their hobbies and what is their interest? Education level, if you must. And again, the sample. Okay, tips of building your user persona or user profiles. Always use real data. That's why you have to research, you have to read about who is your user, and some information that you can find from the magazine, from the articles. They can say, okay, woman age 40 and 45, some of them, or maybe less than 40, maybe age of 30, they love to play games that related to uh, collecting evidence, if detective wanna be in comparison to PUBG, for example. You have to find that data. Uh, Another method is you come up with a simple survey, quick data collections, create multiple persona to represent different group. As I said earlier, um, you have a executive age 35 to 50, for example. And then you have a young executive uh, working in a good company, age 20 to 25 to 35 years old. Then you have a college student. So you are creating three different persona. Detail bios about your user persona, uh, especially you put in the bio maybe their interest about games. Take advantage of personal tools where persona can be customized to any format you prefer. Templates and pre-existing tools can speed up the process. So Actensio is a good site for learning the rope. Okay. So that's it on a simple method to building your user profiles and user persona. There you go. So that's it, guys. So basically, remember when you in a holiday next weeks, please spend some time to do a research on um, user profiles and user personas, and please do this as well. So both user profile and user persona in this charge of information design is your first and second assignment, which is first assignment is your user profile and user persona, and the other first assignment is you do a research on this visual informations in this information and user interface design, which when you carry on with this filling all the necessary informations in this folder is part of the um, second assignment. Of course, on another second assignment, we have another what we call it user journey mapping. Okay, guys, that's it. Please spare some time to do a research about information and user interface design. That's it for me. Thank you, and have a good holiday. Thank you and goodbye.